Newcastle will be a good test. Good side. We always have good games against them. I think they're always close. Both teams in all the games we've had against them have had their moments. They're in good form at the moment. They're in a good period, and it's a good challenge for us. But at the same time, I know we obviously haven't had the results we want, but I still think our football at home has still been of a good quality, and we've certainly done enough in games to win them. So we've just got to go out there with the same mindset tomorrow. There is always the opportunity for change, and the one constant with me is that I'm not going to in terms of my beliefs. But there's always a reason to change, and there's always the opportunity to change for everybody. So I guess it just comes down to how much you believe in what you're doing and how much you believe what you're doing will bring success, and that's kind of where I sit with it.
Difficult game. I think whenever you go to Tottenham, it's always a tough match. I think they're a very good creative team. I think their goal-scoring record's very strong. They've got a very good way of playing, which is tough to play against. We expect a really difficult game. I don't think you're under any illusions when you're playing the games that we are, Manchester United, Tottenham, Arsenal. That this is a challenging period, but one that we started in great form, and now we're looking to carry that on.
Yeah, just listening to Ange Postecoglou there and his determination to stick to his principles and the way that his side play. It's not really working at the moment, is it?
No, it's not. If you're looking at the no win in 5, I think you mentioned. So it's not. But like I said, back to Ruben Amorim and Ange Postecoglou, if that's your philosophy, that's your style, you don't compromise that, because you compromise everything that you stand for, and he's sticking by that. But obviously that style and the amount of games, they're having a lot more games. I feel like Newcastle and Tottenham are flip-flopped from last season. Newcastle last season in the Champions League picked up injuries. This season, Tottenham picking up injuries and they, competitions. I mean, some of the defending, though, has been, shocking. But when you're playing an 18-year-old Archie Gray as a left-sided centre-back, he's right-footed and he's a centre midfielder or midfielder, as saying, you've got Dragerson in there. I think the concentration and defending that has been because they're not used to that back line and not been good enough. But
it's not just about, I suppose, even playing the games either. If you've got those midweeks off suddenly, there's more time to work on specific tactical issues, which for a manager like Postecoglou is so much more important, given how finely tuned his system needs to be.
Honestly, as a player, the week is so different when you've got one game to 2 or 3, because there's no training time if you've got 2 or 3 games. Your recovery is different, you can't push. And actually, all you're ever doing is literally doing walkthroughs game.
Yeah.
You can't ever... And they've accumulated injuries. The way that Postecoglou plays, they're a pressing team from the front.
Yeah.
They're going to sustain... The injuries that they've had are like quad and hamstrings, which means that's a loading issue. I worked with Emma Hazel and she said she would take it personally if her players got quad and hamstring injuries, because that's a loading thing. It's not like someone's come in and took your ankle, or... that's just because the way that he plays and the way that he wants them to play, they can't cope with that. So actually, that's Daniel Levy to provide a bigger squad if that's the guy that you want to take you where you want to go and play that way.
Yeah, I think, Miguel, sometimes it's been called naive, especially the way that Tottenham are just... You said they press, right? Okay, so they're a pressing team, they play high intensity. Do they need to do that throughout the 90 minutes, I think, is the big question.
It feels like this is an issue that Postecoglou is getting increasingly irritated about and really bristling when that comes up. And he gets really offhand and questions come about it. I'm in two minds with this, I have to say. On one hand, I quite like that a manager just does this, that just dogmatically sticks to his principles no matter what. Also, as we can see, they're one of the most entertaining teams to watch. On the other side, there is this argument that it's an approach that works if you have one of the best squads in your league, and you can, as you mentioned about depth, if you can repeatedly rely on that quality of kind of prime player coming in. If you don't have that, there's a drop-off, which we've seen. And also, there is maybe that slight sense that every time Postecoglou, because really, he does refuse to discuss it almost. He goes, well, that's the way we are, and that's it. And it's not like it's absolving him of criticism, but there is an element then that you don't get into any of the actual flaws that are costing him these games. I do think there is a bigger context with Tottenham that you did mention, that we spoke about, with the depth of the squad. If you look at their wage bill, it's not basically Champions League place wage bill. It's a very young squad. Obviously, they've lost Harry Kane, and I mean, not that they haven't replaced him, say, but like it's not just about replacing one player. It's a new era for the team and a different direction. And we're seeing a lot of kind of variables there with Postecoglou trying to impose something that's consistent, which is a system.
Did you hear anything about Kulusevski? Like, there's bids and rumours of him today in the window, like saying, you know, he's been their best player.
Yeah,
He's been the most. I think only Cole Palmer's created more opportunities than him in the Premier League, and was in talk today of him potentially going.
And that's exactly it, though. He stands out as a rare player who's kind of close to his prime in this Spurs squad. Because ultimately, what is it? I mean, Son is obviously closer to the end of his career now, you'd say, or past maybe his prime. Then you've got a lot of young players. And then in the middle there, Kulusevski, who's really coming into that sort of form where, I mean, Tottenham fans won't appreciate this, but for the last 20 years, going back further, actually, they've been a club who, as soon as a player hits a certain point, well, wealthier clubs come in. You can look at Gareth Bale, Dimitar Berbatov, Michael Carrick, and Kulusevski. If he continues this form, it's natural. And as you say, the noise has started.
Yeah, it feels like everything's going wrong at the moment for Spurs. I want to look at this moment from the Wolves game because I couldn't believe this. I've been seeing it on social media replayed over and over. I mean, two players running into each other. This is just... Has that ever happened to you?
Probably. I'm quite clumsy, to be fair, Jill. So, you know,
Didn't mean it like that. I've never seen something like that, really.
No, I think lack of communication, no awareness between each other. I don't know whether...
There's a bit of desperation there as well, maybe.
I mean, it's just... I don't know, Bentancur, I think he's trying to jump out of the way at the end there, and then they clash with each other, but it does sum it up. But, it's not ideal.
The one thing about that as well is, and he mentioned about kind of everything going wrong, I suppose that's something that's more likely to happen with a younger squad, that because they don't have the experience of weathering tough situations, if you get into a bad run, it kind of, you know, becomes kind of self-perpetuating. That confidence is low, then it feels like, something's going to go wrong. And as we've seen through this Christmas run, in total contrast to Newcastle, where everything has gone right, for Spurs, almost in these moments of doubt, it just feels like they suffer them, basically.
Yeah, well, we're talking about low confidence. Someone who's not got that problem at the moment is Alexander Isak. Newcastle, 4 Premier League wins in a row, and he has 8 goals in 6 games.
Flying December was a great month for him, and actually both teams have got a massive cup game as well. Semi-finals, so both these teams will be desperate, but Eddie Howe we're wanting to lift a trophy with this group, but Isak's been unbelievable. He's... You know what? All these goals, obviously, in the width of the 18-yard, in the width of the goal, but he does veer out. You know, he's creative. He helps at link up. He's quick. He starts the press. He's got everything about him. And again, I'm sure, maybe because of the profit and sustainability, or I don't know how you call it, whatever the words are now. But I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in. But I'd say it'll be worth 100 million.
Well, Arsenal would have had a look in the last year, but Newcastle's quoted a very... Actually, I don't think they even quoted a price. It would have taken something massive to get them to consider. And to be fair, on that exact point, actually, I mean, I think Howe and Isaac are due credit here because, it's as recently as October we're talking about Eddie Howe potentially being in trouble, Jose Mourinho maybe being a successor, Isaac, people were talking about how he looked disinterested, form was low, and now, 2 months on, over the Christmas they've had, the team is in top form, they've got a few variations and they play, the intensity's back, and at the front of it all, Isaac is on this incredible run where he's probably, bar Salah, the form player in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, that's why we said it's the battle of the entertainers, because with Spurs, you just don't know what you're going to get. Goals guaranteed at both ends. And, of course, Newcastle on this fantastic run as well.
Well, I'm doing the game tomorrow, Jules. It's going to be cold. I don't want a 0-0, so don't jinx me. I want goals and just keep me warm, keep me entertained. But, yeah, I'm hoping it will be a classic tomorrow.
Yeah, like we said, there's not been a 0-0 between these two. We're just seeing some Newcastle goals here, as I mentioned, 4 Premier League goals in a row. What do you like most about them?
You know what, Murphy as well. He's been top drawer as well, but they've just been really clinical. Really, really clinical. Again, nice, tidy finish. Front players have been great form. Gordon as well, he scored a great goal against Villa. Midfield, as we mentioned, Tonali's dropped a little bit deeper and Guimaraes is playing a little bit higher. Just on top form. I love this little... There he is, Guimaraes.
They've got a few little angles there, because you've got the power in midfield, you've got the pace of Gordon, and even the kind of like everything that Isaac brings. Like they've got a team that can hurt you in a few different ways now.
I think Shah's out tomorrow, but I think Botman might be coming back.
Yeah, Botman's back.
So, you know, and like we spoke about, they haven't got that Champions League, so they can rest a few players and go again. And I think they look fresh, they look hungry, and that intensity is right there.